When dark clouds gathered and thunder tore across the sky, the ancients didn't simply see a storm. They whispered, "The god of thunder was angry." In the icy lands of the far north, where legends were passed down by firelight, there was a god, remembered in every roar of the storm, Thor, son of Odin, the mightiest warrior of Asgard. He was not only the symbol of strength and courage, but also the wielder of a sacred weapon, Mjölnir, a hammer capable of shattering mountains, destroying monsters, and bringing giants to their knees. But few knew that this powerful hammer was not a gift from the heavens. It was the result of a deadly joke. A joke that sparked hatred, awakened chaos, and wrote blood-stained chapters in the Norse sagas. What led to the forging of the hammer? Why did Thor erupt in fury against gods and foes alike? And in the end, why during Ragnarok did the god of thunder fall, with the hammer still in his hand? Today, we delve into one of the most epic and fierce legends of Norse mythology. The tale of Thor and the hammer Mjölnir, a symbol of power, loyalty, and the cost of wrath. Every tragedy in Norse mythology begins with a familiar name: Loki, the god of mischief, of wicked jokes, and of secrets no one could grasp. On what seemed like a peaceful day in Asgard, with golden sunlight bathing the fields and birds gliding over Valhalla's peak, Loki, true to form, was struck by a whim. Not for any particular reason, simply because he felt like playing a prank. And this time, his victim was Sif, Thor's wife, a woman with hair as golden as ripe wheat, the pride of all Asgard. In a moment of devilish glee, Loki crept in while she slept and cut off her entire golden hair. To him, it was mere fun, a moment of mischief. But to Thor, it was an unforgivable insult. The god of thunder's fury shook the skies. Thor grabbed Loki and threatened to break every bone in his body unless he found a way to make amends. And so, Loki was forced to descend into Svartalfheim, the dark world beneath the earth, home of the dwarves, the most gifted blacksmiths in all 9 realms. There, he begged the brothers Brokkr and Sindri, master craftsmen, to forge a new golden hair for Sif from pure gold threads. But they didn't stop there. To showcase their skill, they created 2 more treasures, a flying boar and a ship that could fold like a handkerchief. Not to be outdone, Loki challenged Brokkr and Sindri to craft even greater artifacts. The dwarf brothers returned to the blazing forge, and from it came 3 divine creations: Gullinbursti, a radiant boar that lit the night; Draupnir, a ring that birthed gold; and Mjölnir, the hammer that could crush anything and always return to its thrower's hand. However, as the hammer was being forged, Loki, afraid of losing, turned into a fly and bit Brokkr, causing a brief slip. The result: the hammer's handle was slightly shorter than planned. But that didn't diminish Mjolnir's might. On the contrary, Thor was immediately captivated, a perfect weapon for the god of thunder. And thus, from a prank, Mjolnir was born, not as a gift, but as a consequence of chaos and wounded pride. No one could have foreseen that the hammer would become the center of countless blood-soaked battles, and the embodiment of both the power and wrath of Asgard's greatest. God Mjolnir was no ordinary hammer. It was a weapon born from the fires of the dwarven forge, fused with magic, divine metal, and the curse of a chaotic moment. And it found its one rightful master, Thor, the god of thunder, the protector of Asgard. From the moment he grasped Mjolnir, Thor felt something beyond any weapon he had ever wielded, a primal force, fierce and fiercely loyal. Each time he hurled the hammer, it soared through enemies, shattered mountains, and flew back to his hand as if it had a soul of its own. Thor could summon storms, control the weather, and banish darkness with a single swing. Mjolnir became part of his very being, not just a weapon, but a divine symbol of ultimate power. From that day, Thor's name was no longer just the son of Odin. He became the terror of monsters, the enforcer of balance among realms, and the god whom mortals looked to when the skies grew dark. To the people of Midgard, mankind, each lightning bolt a cross. The sky was Thor hurling Mjolnir against the forces of darkness. And the thunder? The sound of his chariot's wheels, drawn by two magical goats, Tangrisnir and Tangjostr, galloping through the clouds. Each time Thor lifted Mjölnir, the sigh. Heavens trembled. That's why the ancients called him the keeper of order, and the fury of the gods when that order was threatened. Thor didn't dwell in lavish palaces like many other gods. He chose to live in Bilskirnir, the grandest house in Asgard, set amidst rugged lands and howling winds, where he could see danger rising on the horizon. With Mjölnir by his side, Thor never hesitated to charge into peril, battling frost giants from Jotunheim, towering, grotesque beings, always scheming to shatter the realm's balance. Thor wasn't as wise as Odin, nor as cunning as Loki, but he had what Asgard needed most: unwavering loyalty, fearless courage, and resilience against all enemies. But it was that very power, that unrelenting wrath, that made him a symbol of destruction, a reminder that when gods grow angry, the world itself may tremble. Though Mjölnir stood for justice, none dared forget it could also be a merciless instrument of punishment. Thor never killed without cause, but he never forgave betrayal, deceit, or invasion. To him, justice didn't require words. Just a single strike from Mjölnir could pass the sentence. They say once, Thor struck the ground with Mjölnir, and an entire army of giants was swept away like dust. The wind and thunder howled so fiercely that even the seas recoiled. And when the storm passed, only silence remained, the silence of a world that had either been saved or judged. Mjölnir was glory, but also burden. Thor knew it, and he bore it like he bore his destiny, to protect Asgard, to preserve order across the 9 realms, and to raise his hammer when the world needed a thunderclap loud enough to awaken. Both mortals and gods. One gloomy morning in Asgard, the sky seemed to carry an omen. No thunder, no lightning, and more importantly, Mjölnir was gone. Thor awoke in confusion, his arm empty. Where the sacred hammer once rested, there was now only a cold void. Rage surged through his veins. He roared, a cry that echoed all the way to Jotunheim. No one, not even the gods, could touch Mjölnir without going through Thor. So who, or what, had dared take it? Asgard trembled. Odin, with his all-seeing eye, summoned the council of gods. Loki, ever sly and quick, was tasked with the investigation. Though Thor had never fully trusted the trickster god, in desperate times, even the craftiest of beings could prove useful. Loki donned Freya's falcon cloak, a feathered mantle that allowed him to fly between realms, and soared to Jotunheim, the frozen realm of the giants. There he met Thrym, one of the fiercest lords of the Jotun race, and Thrym, without shame, proudly confessed, "I took Mjölnir. It lies buried beneath 9 layers of earth. Only a foolish god would dare ask for it back." Thrym hadn't just stolen the hammer, he wanted to trade it. He demanded something outrageous, that Freya, the goddess of beauty, become his bride, and only then would he return Mjölnir, a disgrace to Asgard, an open challenge from an age-old enemy. When Loki brought back the news, Thor's fury exploded. But even Thor, without his hammer, couldn't storm the stronghold of the giants alone. And so a wild plan was born. Thor would disguise himself as Freya. No one on the council dared to speak it aloud, but it was Loki who first made the suggestion. Naturally, Freya refused to be a bargaining chip in any negotiation, and Thor, though furious, could not force her. Thus, only one choice remained. The god of thunder would don a lavish dress, wear a bridal veil, and with Loki disguised as a handmaiden, enter enemy territory. The scene in Jotunheim descended into chaos upon the arrival of Freya. Thrym, foolish and consumed by desire, noticed nothing amiss. Despite the bride having hands the size of shields, devouring an entire banquet in one breath, and eyes blazing with rage behind the veil, he still believed he was about to wed the most beautiful goddess of Asgard. During the wedding ceremony, as per giant tradition, Mjölnir was brought forth to bless the union. And that was Thrym's final mistake. The moment the hammer touched the bride's hands, Thor ripped away the disguise. The wig flew off, silk garments shredded, and then, thunder roared, the hammer fell. Mjölnir returned to where it belonged. Thor, in a storm of wrath, slammed the ground with a blow that shattered Thrym's palace. Not a single giant survived. All of Jotunheim trembled in terror. It was no wedding, it was a divine execution. Once the storm of fury passed, Thor and Loki returned to Asgard. From that day forward, no one dared underestimate the god who wielded the short-handled hammer. Mjölnir became a symbol not only of power, but of sacred wrath. In the final pages of Norse mythology, when the stars begin to fall from the sky, the earth cracks open, and the world tree Yggdrasil quakes violently, that is when Ragnarok begins. The twilight of the gods. No one, not even Odin, the all-seeing god, could stop destiny. All they could do was wait. And Thor, the god of thunder with his legendary hammer, would not escape the prophecy either. Signs of the end had long appeared. The wolf Fenrir broke free of his chains and devoured the sun. Jörmungandr, the giant sea serpent, child of Loki, rose from the depths of the ocean, thrashing its tail and sending tsunamis across the realms of men. All 9 worlds burned, and giants from Jotunheim surged across the Bifrost Bridge, bringing with them the flames of war. And then came the final fate. Thor faced Jörmungandr, his eternal foe, the monstrous creature he had battled many times before. But this time it would be their last. One would live, one would die. The sky split open as Thor charged across the heavens in his chariot, lightning swirling around him, Mjölnir blazing in his hand like celestial fire. Before him rose Jörmungandr, coiled in a sea of blood, its body long enough to encircle all of Midgard. The two collided in a fury. The sea roared, the earth cracked, the heavens wept. Thor struck with Mjölnir, shattering the serpent's iron-like scales. Jörmungandr writhed but did not relent. It opened its maw and spewed black venom, a poison deadly even to gods. The battle raged endlessly, a clash between divine strength and ancient hatred. At last, Thor defeated Jörmungandr. With one final swing, he crushed the serpent's skull, silencing it with a final agonized scream. But the victory came at a cost. Moments later, Thor staggered, poisoned by the serpent's venom. The black ichor oozing from Jörmungandr's corpse seeped into his flesh. Thor took one step, then another. On the 9th step, he collapsed. Mjölnir slipped from his hand. A god fell, not from weakness, but because he fought to his final breath to protect the world. The Battle of Ragnarok did not only claim Thor. Odin fell to Fenrir's fangs. Loki died in his destined duel with Heimdall. The divine world crumbled, not an ending, but the beginning of a new cycle. From the ashes, life would rise again. 2 humans, hidden deep within Yggdrasil's forest, would survive to repopulate the earth. A new generation of gods would ascend. But the wounds of Ragnarok and Thor's sacrifice would remain etched into the soul of all existence. Mjölnir, the godly hammer, no longer echoed with thunder. Yet in every storm, when thunder cracked the sky, people believed it was the voice of Thor, the god who gave everything to defend the cosmos. After Ragnarok, as the heavens and earth trembled and all beings endured immense tribulation, the tale of Thor and Mjölnir never faded from the memory of generations. Thor was not merely the god of thunder and strength. He became a symbol of courage, loyalty, and unwavering belief in cosmic order. Though he knew his fate, to die in the final battle against the forces of destruction, he never hesitated, never stepped back. He fought to his last breath. That sacrifice burned his image into the hearts of mortals and gods alike, as an immortal symbol of strength and justice. Mjölnir, though silenced, remained an irreplaceable emblem of power. Not just a weapon, it was proof of Thor's divine fury and protection of the 9 realms. In legend, Mjölnir stood as a symbol of justice, sacred power, and divine protection that all enemies feared. The ancient Norse once believed that every thunderclap in the sky was Thor standing upon the clouds, gripping his hammer, ready to shield the world from chaos. That image inspired countless stories, songs, and festivals, preserving the unique spiritual and cultural identity of their people. Though time moves forward, reverence for Thor and Mjölnir has never waned. Across many lands, people still keep the symbol of the hammer as a talisman, for strength, for protection, for endurance. And in every retelling of the myth, Thor rises again as the unyielding god of thunder, the greatest warrior of the North, who balanced power with responsibility. The story of Thor and Mjölnir is not just legend. It is a lesson in bravery, resilience, and the will to protect sacred values at all costs. It is the echo of a divine rage and the guiding light for generations to come. And when thunder rumbles across the sky today, remember, somewhere out there, Thor still stands watch, ready to raise Mjölnir, the sacred fury of the Norse heavens, to protect the world he once died for.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. If you found the video helpful and interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos. Wishing you a wonderful day, and see you in the next video.